Hi, welcome to Get Into Woodworking with me, Mitch Peacock. And today I'm going to be improving on our little box design and talking about where we should purchase tools. Just a quick word on footwear when we're woodworking. If I'm working for extended periods or on a cold floor, then I tend to go for a shoe that's got good arch support and a thick sole. These ones have actually got a curved base to them, so I'm constantly moving my feet and the bottom of my legs so I don't get tired. When I'm working with heavy tools or with machinery, then a good pair of work boots offers the protection you need. Last time we left with our box looking like this. We just had simple butt joints on the corners. One of the problems of this type of joint is that the end grain doesn't adhere very well, and so an end grain to the long grain on the side of the box doesn't make for a very strong joint. We can improve on that by making what's called a lapped corner joint, where the end grain of one component is covered over by the other and only showing a small amount of end grain on the edge. To prepare that joint, we therefore need to cut a corner out of one of the components, and that needs to be as wide as the one it's going to join to and not so deep that we lose too much strength on this outside edge. So let's start out by just marking what corners we need to make the rebate in. Next we take a marking gauge and set it to the thickness of the end pieces. That's going to be the width of the rebate, and now we can mark each of the sides from the end with the gauge. We can also mark a little bit on the edges . And we do that for the insides on both of those sides. Now I'm going to reset the marking gauge so that it's about 3mm less than the width of the sides. And then mark from the inside of the box using the gauge, and that will be the depth of our rebate. And we can mark out on the top and bottom of the sides back as far as the width mark for the rebate. So we're going to be removing this corner and the end and that section and that bit, and we do that with two saw cuts, one into the inside face of the side down to the depth of the other one, and then we cut the other one into the end grain through here to make the first cut. I can use the tri-square lined up to the marking gauge line to then use a marking knife and make that line deeper. Cut a little notch at the end to start the sawing. And today I'm going to be using the little dovetail saw. You could use the cross-cut pull saw here, but this has got finer teeth and it just makes a nicer job of it. Then we just saw down to the mark on the side. It's better to not go far enough than to go too deep. If you go too deep, you weaken the joint. I clamp the work to the face of the bench this time to cut into the end grain down to the saw cut we've just made. If you were careful with your first saw cut, you've probably gone just a little too shallow, as I have here, and we can just run the saw in from the side just to complete the cut off, and that's the corner removed. Quite often preparing a rebate like this will leave a little bit of rubbish in the corners, and that's where you can use a nice sharp chisel just to get right up in the corner and clear any rubbish out. The ideal tool for this is a shoulder plane. We'll cover those in a future video. It's not necessary, you can just use a chisel. And you should find that an end will fit on there perfectly. Now we've just got 3 more rebates to make. Clearly using a vise makes clamping a lot easier. If you clean up with a chisel, don't go all the way across the end, just go about 2/3 of the way, then turn around and come back in the other direction, and that will save breaking out material on the end. With the ends rebated into the sides, the box is now going to be stronger because there's more glue surface area, and it also looks a lot nicer. A slight drawback of using the same sides this time is because we've rebated them, the base of the box will no longer fit in there. A simple solution to that would be to plane some off the edge of the base until it just fits, and it can be glued in as before. But I'll show you a better way of attaching the base next time. I'm often asked the question, where do you buy your tools? Or where is a good place to buy cheap tools? I tend to stick with the retailers that I've used for some time and have developed a lot of trust in. And they are Classic Hand Tools, who have great tools at a fair price and offer an excellent service with a personal touch. Axminster Tools and Machineries, who also have a great range of tools with excellent service. Rutland's, again, good range of tools and excellent service. Toolstation, which is very convenient where I live and has great prices. And Screwfix, again another local one to me. It's convenient, it's got a large range and the prices are not too bad. Other than those, I sometimes get bargains from eBay also at trade fairs, although beware, you could end up spending an awful lot of money unless you set yourself a budget before you go. All those glistening tools are a great temptation. And occasionally from tool dealers who normally have stalls at wood fairs, etc. Sometimes they end up being the only option to get a specific tool that you're after, but you have to haggle if you don't want to pay over the odds. As far as cheap tools go, well, if your definition of cheap is great value for money, then you can get that from all of the retailers I've mentioned. However, look out for the regular discounts that you'll find online. Anything between 10 and 50% is not unusual. If you choose to buy on an auction site, then do your research and make sure you know how much items are going for before you start bidding. Of course, an alternative definition of cheap would be low cost, with the inevitable lower value. This could mean that for two virtually identical tools, one sold under a well-respected brand and the other one not, you might spend a quarter of the price for the tool that performs just as well. More often though, a low-cost tool will not be made of the same materials and not be finished to the same standard. Plastic handles on a plane might not affect its performance, but a ductile iron body will resist rust and breakage more than a lower cost cast iron one. The backs of low cost chisels might not be ground flat, and you may need to invest an hour of fettling to put that right. If you buy low cost tools, either because of the budget that you have or just out of choice, expect to put some time into improving them to meet the performance of more expensive ones. However, if you decide that woodworking really is for you and you're committed to it, then pay what you can afford so you can spend more time working wood rather than working metal. Next time I'll be talking about how to sharpen chisels, and we'll make this very handy bench hook. So see you then.